Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is April 4th, 2019. Thank you for joining me. This is the second installment of a web series that I am providing called Extreme Clean, which describes my journey to try and reach net zero carbon emissions individually, and also to share the information about how I got there or how I tried to get there, about my successes, my failures, and my process in attempting this project, which I think is an important project for all of us to attempt at this time. And hopefully you will also try to attempt this as well. Maybe not in exactly the same way that I'm doing it, but hopefully my particular journey is helpful to you. Now, for this particular episode, I am going to compare various clean energy vehicles. My first major step in trying to clean up my own carbon emissions and to share that clean energy is to gain access to a clean energy vehicle and to share that clean energy vehicle, thus multiplying my impact through rideshare systems like Uber. Now, before I get into the comparisons of various somewhat affordable, highly capable clean energy vehicles on offer, I'd like to go into a little bit more of why I'm doing this. And right now, the Earth system is tipping rapidly toward a hothouse state. And this hothouse state will provide, if it is achieved, various extraordinarily severe impacts that human civilization is not used to, and that will likely destabilize and potentially destroy whole civilizations, whole human civilizations on planet Earth, as the Earth system, the Earth climate system, which has been so favorable to us, is wrecked, and as many species that we rely on fall into risk of extinction, and as the weather becomes more hostile, and as the ocean and terrestrial environments become more hostile as a result of that hothouse state. There have been numerous reports warning about the potential to tip into a hothouse Earth state, one of them being produced by Potsdam, which produced this graphic here, this rather simple graphic about the present Earth system state and the potential to fall into a hothouse state. Numerous journalists and scientists and climate observers have been talking about this over the past few years, as we have seen much more extreme weather events, much more extreme wildfires, and a larger and larger human displacement due to the destruction of human habitats by events related to human-caused climate change, like, for example, the very severe wildfires we saw out west last year. Now, one of the major contributors to human-forced climate change is what is called the internal combustion engine, or what some have referred to as the infernal internal combustion engine. Now, this engine uses high carbon-based fuels like gasoline, and in total at present, the ground vehicle transport system globally is producing approximately 2.6 billion tons of carbon and injecting that into the Earth's atmosphere, which is a major contributor to the climate change that we are seeing. And if we were merely to transition all of that ground transportation at present, representing about 1 billion vehicles globally, to electric vehicles, we could cut that carbon emission in half. If we were to link that vehicle-based system to clean energy sources like wind and solar, we could cut that carbon emission by about 90% or more. And if we could clean up the material basis for manufacturing those vehicles, we could produce a vehicle transport system, a ground-based vehicle transport system that is net zero carbon emissions. Now that's on a systemic basis. From the standpoint of an individual and how an individual can contribute to such a large system, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of signal are we sending to the global market that produces these vehicles? And if we are purchasing an electric vehicle, we are contributing to a new clean energy paradigm and an acceleration of that paradigm. So for me, it's important to be a part of that process. So right now, I'm looking at purchasing one of a number of highly capable electric vehicles and then sharing it through the rideshare service Uber. I've been Ubering, as I mentioned before, now since September, and I've logged over 1,200 rides. And during the middle of next month, I will have purchased a clean energy vehicle and I'll hopefully be starting to share clean energy rides with people by early May. So which vehicles am I looking at? Well, the first one is the Chevy Bolt. And this electric vehicle entered mass production in 2018. At present, I think Chevy is planning to produce about 30,000 Bolts for 2019, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's been a pretty ambitious effort on the part of Chevy, and I just like to commend Chevy for this particular clean energy vehicle effort. I hope that Chevy will double down on its clean energy production and work to increase the capability and attractiveness of its Bolt model, but also produce other electric vehicle models that are similarly capable, and more attractive, to provide them for people who are not only concerned about climate change like me, but also people who are just looking for a form of transport that is more attractive. It has less maintenance costs, connects to local energy sources rather than global fossil fuel sources, which have been so destabilizing to global security recently, and generally overall is a more patriotic vehicle, in my opinion. So now looking at the Bolt's capabilities, its maximum electric range is 238 miles, which is a range that would have been unheard of in any vehicle other than a high-priced Tesla, even just a few years ago. So very capable on range. It's got a number of other relatively pretty attractive features. It's got the central screen, which you can use to control various aspects of the vehicle. It has a rear camera mount and some very basic autonomous safety features, which are also pretty attractive. The vehicle itself is capable of fast charging at a 50 kilowatt hour rate, which is pretty nice. This allows the vehicle to recharge fully in about an hour and 15 minutes when linked up to a 50 kilowatt charger. So a pretty strong electric vehicle offering overall for Chevy. In addition, this model goes for about, the base model goes for $36,500. At present is no longer has access to the full federal tax credit of $7,500 because Chevy has produced such a high number of electric vehicles over the past decade. But it's still eligible for a $3,750 tax credit. And in Maryland, it's also eligible for another $3,000 incentive. So overall, a very attractive electric vehicle. One other point that I'd like to note that's in favor of the Bolt is due to the fact that it does appear that a number of dealerships are offering very sweet offers for the Bolt, possibly below standard price, as well as a potential for a very attractive financing approaching 0% interest. So all very attractive features for the Bolt, which has put it in my list of potential electric vehicles for use in rideshare. Now, another electric vehicle that's highly capable that has gotten a lot of press is the Tesla Model 3. And recently, Tesla achieved its goal of producing an electric vehicle for just $35,000 in the form of the Tesla Model 3 Standard. And the Standard Model 3 is the most basic version of the Model 3, but it's still a pretty attractive, highly capable electric vehicle. And in some ways, it stands head and shoulders above the competition in a number of respects. Now, as for range, the Standard Model 3 has about 220 miles of all-electric range, and this is a shorter range than the Chevy Volt, but it's also a little bit less expensive. Now, for another $2,500, so paying $37,500, you can get a Tesla Model 3, which is known as the Standard Plus, which has a range of 240 miles on the charge, which is about the same as the Chevy Volt. Now, other features related to the vehicle are that the Standard range is a pretty muscular sports car in and of itself. It's capable of a 230 mile per hour top speed and acceleration from 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds. Now, for me, this is not really something that I need. I'm just looking for a vehicle that can serve as a workhorse for rideshare, as a relatively practical vehicle. But it is kind of attractive to have a vehicle in this price range that has this capability. Now, in the Standard Plus Model 3, the maximum speed increases to 140 miles per hour, and the acceleration, Tesla's famous acceleration, increases to reduces to 5.3 seconds in a 0 to 60 mile per hour acceleration. Now, the features of the Model 3 are also pretty attractive. The Standard Model 3 comes with cloth seats and a very large central touch screen, which enables you to control most of the vehicle's operating features through the touchscreen. The touchscreen itself plugs into the audio, and the audio for the Tesla Model 3 Standard is, from what I understand, is pretty decent. But with the Standard Plus, you get a semi-premium sound system. In addition, with the Standard Plus, which is the $37,000 version, you get faux leather seats or vegan leather seats, and you also get heated front seats, which is kind of nice, especially if you're getting into a vehicle on a cold morning, or you're going on a long trip and you want to, say for example, your passenger likes warmer environment, so they want they heat up their seat, and you like a cooler environment, or vice versa. So it gives you some nice semi luxury options. One of the other very attractive features of the Model 3 is its glass roof. I think this is a pretty beautiful feature. Allows you to get more immersive in environmental experience with the vehicle. Also a luxury feature, a nice feature, maybe not a practical feature, but one that does add to the overall experience of riding in one of these vehicles. And that is important for rideshare. You want your customers to feel comfortable and like they're having a pleasant ride. And one of the things that these electric vehicles have on their negative side is the fact that their interiors are a bit smaller, and with the Model 3 it's a bit lower, so you sit a little lower in the seats, and so anything to add to the pleasantness of the environment in a relatively compact vehicle is a major plus. Now, the other thing that the Model 3 has that is very practical, although not necessary for rideshare, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is access to it has a fast charging capability, a very fast charging capability when it is access to the Tesla Supercharger network. Now, the Tesla Supercharger network at present for most locations charges at a rate of 72 kilowatts up to 120 kilowatts. And this is much faster than the 50 kilowatts for the Chevy Bolt and also for the other electric vehicles that I'm looking at. And this is a very attractive feature for long-range trips. So, for example, one of the things that I do regularly is I travel down to Murrells Inlet in South Carolina for a family reunion every late summer. And so on a long range trip, the ability to charge really rapidly reduces the time length of the trip. So having access to 72 to 120 kilowatt charging capability for the Tesla is another attractive feature through the supercharger network. Now with rideshare, the Tesla Model 3 is not supposed to use the supercharger network during rideshare. However, I did talk to a Tesla representative and asked them what typical fair use of the supercharger network would be. And what they said to me was that once to twice a week would be considered acceptable. And as long as you're not, sitting on your rideshare app, charging the Tesla and hogging up the stalls, on a daily basis, then there's not a major concern. So say, for example, I'm out ride sharing and I get spun out, 100 miles away with a long range trip out to, say, for example, Delaware, which has happened to me on a couple of occasions. I live in the DC area. What I could do is turn off the rideshare app if I don't have enough electric range to get home, drive to a supercharger, spend about 15 to 20 minutes getting enough charge to get me home, and then plug into a level 2 charger when I get into my home region. So that is also a capability that makes the Tesla Model 3 very attractive to me in a pinch. So the other feature with regards to the superchargers is that Tesla's starting to produce a version 3 of its supercharger, which is capable of charging up to a 250 kilowatt rate. And that's really a paradigm shift for chargers, especially considering the fact that the Tesla has such a large supercharger network. Now, at present, this very rapid charge capability is only available in California, but over the coming year, 2 years, 3 years, this version 3 supercharger capability is expected to trickle through Tesla's vast supercharging network. So something to consider. So very attractive offering here for the Tesla Model 3. Now looking at some other electric vehicles, one of the other electric vehicles I'm looking at is the long-range version of Nissan Leaf. Now this particular vehicle has a little bit less range than the Chevy Bolt and the Tesla Standard Plus model, but it has a slightly longer range than the base standard model of the Model 3 at 226 miles electric range, which is a big leap for Leaf. Leaf used to have around a 100, 115 mile range in earlier versions. It jumped ahead to 150 mile range for its standard Leaf last year and is now offering a long-range Leaf, which is very attractive and very capable. Now, like the Bolt, it's able to charge at about a 50 kilowatt rate, and that puts it in a similar class as the Bolt in that respect. It also has less luxury features than the Model 3, but overall is relatively decent, roomy interior. It's pretty muscular. It's got about 116 horsepower, and so a pretty zippy little car, very very attractive. It's got 5 seats. It's definitely something that you could use for my stated goals, and so a pretty attractive offering. Now, price is also similar to the Bolt. Let me confirm on price. I'm going to take a look at my blog here. I'm writing a blog as well, and here we go. Getting down to price. So yeah, so the longer range Nissan Leaf starts at $37,445, which is comparable to the standard plus version of the Model 3. However, the Nissan Leaf still has access to the full $7,500 tax credit, which would result in about a $3,700, $750 lower cost than the standard version of the Model 3, and approximately a $2,500 lower cost than the Chevy Bolt. Now, one concern that has arisen with the Nissan Leaf is the fact that it's an air-cooled battery, and in some instances this has resulted in a more rapid degradation of the battery. And there have been some reports that Nissan has really tackled this issue and is providing an air-cooled battery that is more able to retain health. But in the variable climate where I live in Washington, D.C., we can see, in the Washington, D.C. area, we can see some real big swings in temperature. So this is a bit of a concern for me. And in addition, the Leaf itself has some lesser luxury features. It's still got some nice autonomous features like front-end collision avoidance, side collision avoidance, and a heated steering wheel, which is kind of cool for those cold mornings. So again, a very attractive, highly capable, long-range, affordable electric vehicle offering from Nissan here. Now, a fourth option for me is the Hyundai Kona Electric. And this particular vehicle is I think it's gorgeous. It looks really nice. It sits a bit higher, so it looks like it would be a bit more comfortable than in seating wise than the lower slung Model 3. Again, a very attractive vehicle. The price for the Kona starting price is $36,450. It's eligible for the full federal tax credit, which is another benefit. The range is a rather long range. It's got 258 miles of estimated all-electric range, which is at the top of the class at present that I'm looking at. So this is a longer range than the Tesla Model 3, longer range than the long-range Nissan Leaf, longer range than the Chevy Bolt. So pretty attractive. It's got some nice safety features such as blind spot collision warnings and front-end collision avoidance, which is pretty typical in these electric vehicle models. And it's got a relatively small visual display in the center console, so it's not as forward moving as, say, for example, the Tesla Model 3 on design, but the more standard design might also be more attractive because it's something that I'm more familiar with. But back to range, I think range is probably one of the most attractive features, in addition to the fact that the Kona it's a crossover. It's a really nice looking vehicle. And it's likely to be, especially in the front seats, more comfortable than the Model 3. I'm not certain on this, but just looking and seeing some of the evaluations and reviews, it does seem to be the case. Back seats look to be a little bit more crunched up. So, but overall, a very attractive electric vehicle. This one also charges at a 50 kilowatt rate in fast charging, so not as capable as the Tesla Model 3 on charging, but a really competitive offering by Hyundai here. Now, some points about the Kona that are a concern to me is their availability in the U.S. There's been very limited availability in the U.S. thus far, and I'm not certain if this vehicle is going to be readily available in my market by mid-April, which is kind of a bummer because it looks like a really nice vehicle. Now, moving on to the last option for me is the Kia Niro. Now, this would be a stretch option because at present, Kia is not offering the Niro for sales, as I know, in the US. And like the Kona, it's likely to be limited. The Kona's projected production rate for this year is likely in the range of about 20,000 electric vehicles, and that's for the global market. Kia Niro will probably be in the same range. By comparison, the Tesla Model 3 is likely to produce between 250 and 300,000 for the global market this year. So a big difference in availability. Now, the Niro is based on the platform of the Kona. They're both based on the same platform, but the Niro looks like it's going to be roomier on the inside, and because of that, there's a little bit of added weight. So the vehicle has a little bit of electric range. It's got a 240-mile electric range, although inside comfort is likely to be very nice for the Niro. It's also, like the Kona, a very attractive compact SUV crossover. It looks like it rides high. It's got similar safety features. Looks like a decent amount of interior space and storage as well. So if it is on offer by mid-April, then it's something that I will definitely want to consider. Now, overall, I would like for you to please provide me with some feedback on what you think is the best offering among these 5. I might not respond to all of your comments. I'm going to do my best to get into the forums and chat with you guys about this. But I'm really interested in what you guys think. So please post a comment. I've also, on my blog page, I've provided a Twitter survey. It's at robertscribbler.com. So please feel free to share your thoughts. I know a lot of people are very passionate about electric vehicles and have a lot of opinions and experience. And if you could please inform me with your own experience, I would be very grateful for that. Now, if you want to help me, I spread the word on Extreme Clean. I would be very much appreciative. Please share this video, especially if you found it helpful to you. Also, if you found the blog, which is about 3,000 words, so pretty comprehensive, if you found that helpful as well, then please share that as well. If you want to do what I'm doing and rideshare a clean energy vehicle, please consider using my Uber referral code, which I will post at the bottom of the page. So thank you all for joining me. I'll be chatting with you next week about charging networks and their availability on the basis of looking at Tesla versus these other vehicles. But that's a Extreme Clean blog for next week. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for joining me.